I never said that what I teach would be easy for all to comprehend. I only said it would be the absolute truth. More importantly, the black liberating truth that what oppressive forces don't want black people to ever learn. This is why my content is the most restricted and most shadow banned content on all white controlled social media platforms. I teach the truth that most black people have been brainwashed to fear. I am no fool. I know that it's merely a matter of time before I'm neutralized. But it's my hope that the truth that I teach will awaken many of my people before that day happens. And if and when it does, I won't regret my decisions to teach the truth. I educate to liberate. Those who know must teach. African proverb. The most prevailing and most detrimental white racism today is not the issue of white cops routinely killing unarmed innocent black people. That's merely the distraction. It's actually the unseen white racism that's being covertly waged unrelentingly against the collective minds of black people. It's the covert war that's being waged to keep black people mentally enslaved by the white society. Not all wars are fought on the battlefield. Most are fought in the mind. It's a fact that most black people must learn in order to truly emancipate our minds from white mental slavery. Presently, white government agents that specializes in psychiatry and propaganda works unrelentingly behind the scenes, perpetually manipulating the collective minds of the black masses. These men govern our minds, molds our opinions, shapes our perceptions, and covertly steers our culture in ways that serve and protect the system of white supremacy. These men prevent black people from unifying and developing the proper counter strategies that are necessary in order to truly liberate ourselves from white oppression by keeping the black population within a divided and confused collective state. That this state hinders our ability to meet these objectives. They're doing so by deploying hidden social sciences against black people. Social science is one of the branches of science devoted to the study of human behavior, specifically how people function within a society and develops as a culture. White oppressive forces deploys many hidden nefarious social science tactics to facilitate their long-term oppression and subjugation of us. In order for black people to truly liberate ourselves from white oppression, we must learn of these hidden nefarious social science and then develop counter strategies to overcome them. Most black people are totally unaware of these social sciences that are being systematically waged against us, and that ignorance gives the white oppressors their greatest power over us. Case, point, and proof. The reason why millions of African Americans wrongly believe that we made the N-word ours is because of a social science called illusory truth effect, also known as illusionary truth effect. The illusory truth effect is when people have been made to believe that false information is true because of constantly receiving the false information. Repetition makes lies appear more believable. The targeted population that has been repetitively fed the false information will then begin insisting that the information is true, although it's not. This is how white social scientists and white propagandists got millions of African Americans to believe that we made the N-word ours, although we in fact never did. They kept feeding the false narrative into our communities that we made the N-word ours, although we did not. And many African Americans accepted it and started believing it and started repeating it. The reason why a number of African Americans now call themselves niggers have grew into millions is because of a social science that's called the herd mentality. The herd mentality is the tendency for people's behaviors or beliefs to conform to those of the group to which they belong, regardless of how ridiculous those beliefs and behaviors may be. Yes, even intelligent people can be made to engage in ignorant behaviors and beliefs when everyone else around them appears to be doing the same thing and sharing the same belief. People's behaviors align with what they've been made to believe. Therefore, people can be misled to believe false things that are deliberately designed to change their collective behaviors in ways that negatively impacts their culture. This is what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when people begin functioning based upon false information rather than what's actually true. Therefore, people can be given false information that causes them to function collectively in ways that negatively impact their communities. Here's an example that proves this point. Although African Americans have been reporting crimes to law enforcement officials since the abolishment of slavery, a few decades ago, white propagandists fed the false narratives into the black communities that most black people live by no stitching policy. Those of us that are gullible accepted the false narrative as being true and then stopped reporting crimes. This self-fulfilling prophecy of no stitching changed within the African American population, created greater hardship within our communities. Self-fulfilling prophecy propaganda can also be used to give one group greater control and power over another. For example, if you keep repeating the lie that one group is superior to another, the public at large will begin functioning based upon those narratives, thus giving greater social power to one group while negatively impacting the other one, although the information is totally untrue. People function based upon their perception of what's true rather than what actually is true. This is why white social scientists says that perception is more important than reality for controlling society and for steering society towards an applied objective. The white society therefore bends their perception of reality in ways that serve the system of white supremacy. They've literally created a social science for maintaining their social dominance over us. Case, point, and proof. To create and sustain false assumptions within the society that aids the white society in maintaining its social capital and social dominance over black people, white propagandists have fed lots of disinformation into the society that have created the perception that most inventions that have revolutionized the world were invented by Caucasians, and the perception that black people are the leeches of society that haven't invented much throughout history. This perception greatly aids in maintaining white social capital and white social dominance over the black population. But it's an elaborate white deception. The truth is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions by black people. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. This is possible because public perception of reality is not shaped based upon facts. Public perception is actually shaped by the narratives and media images that are repetitively fed into a society. It's in fact the narratives and media images that are repetitively fed into a society that shapes the public perception of reality. Therefore, the basic tool required for the distortion of the public perception of reality is to merely feed false narratives and distorted media images into the society. The public at large will then begin functioning based upon those distortions and falsehoods rather than the true reality. This is precisely what the white ruling class have done. Because they control all of the narratives and media images that are fed into our society, they therefore literally owns the perception of reality. They exploited this immense position of power by feeding lies into a society, and in doing so, they've literally whitewashed the perception of reality. There's even a social science that they deploy against us called structural cultural stupidity, which has been deployed against the African American population. Here's how structural cultural stupidity is achieved. You first strip a targeted population of their true history, culture, and knowledge of themselves. Then you constantly and systematically feed idiotic ideologies into their communities. You then elevate those amongst them that have accepted the idiotic ideologies. These are the ignorant and gullible ones. And you deny a national media platform from the intelligent ones that reject the ideologies. This makes the ignorant ones more overconfident within a state of ignorance and causes the intelligent ones to become intimidated and to remain quiet. thus allowing the idiotic ideologies to prevail throughout their communities, thus creating a culture of stupidity. This is precisely what white oppressive forces have done to the African American culture. It's the true reason why millions of African Americans now insist that they're real niggers and thugs, calls our women bitches and hoes, sags our pants, and glorifies pimps. Here's the core reason why those social scientists use these social sciences to negatively steer us to call ourselves niggers. I have to elaborate on that because there's a reason that's being done, a significant reason. The first step to neutralize a targeted population is to neutralize their alpha males, aka those possessing warrior spirits. These are those males that are psychologically wired to protect our women and our communities. White social scientists neutralize the black alpha males by socially engineering millions to self-identify themselves as niggers because words have power over the subconscious minds. Words, when repeated often enough, shapes our thoughts, and a thought, when held long enough, becomes a belief. A belief then becomes your biology. We psychologically become the words that we repetitively call ourselves. It's why men that call themselves thugs are more likely to engage in a fight than to avoid one. It's also why women that proclaim themselves as being bitches often become stubbornly unreasonable. We psychologically, subconsciously, function based upon the words we repeatedly call ourselves. It's a psychological phenomenon that white social scientists have thoroughly researched. When we repeatedly call ourselves niggers, this conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over us. Have you ever noticed that those African Americans who refuse to call themselves niggers tend to carry themselves with a higher degree of self-respect, as well as commands more respect from others? Currently, many black men believe that they're making an impactful statement when they declare themselves as being real niggers. But those black men are totally ignorant of their own ignorance. They're ignorant of the fact that white social science intentionally attached the word real nigger to black masculinity in order to get black men to insist that they're real niggers. Therefore, those black men are in fact ignorant of their own ignorance. I will not be silent to appease black ignorance, especially when it's black ignorance that hinders our true liberation. White oppressive forces have placed an elaborate spell upon the subconscious minds of many black men with the word nigger. When we call ourselves niggers, this also separates us from our unifying heritage. Without having a based identity to connect to our vast cultural wealth and history over time, we become further fragmented and we become weaker as a people. We can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us to be. Self-identifying ourselves as niggers also divides us from Native Africans. When Africans are divided globally, we lose our global numerical advantage and loses all hopes of defeating global white supremacy. Every couple of decades, white propaganda creates and feeds false information into our communities to give us a false reason to continue calling ourselves niggers. Several years back, they created the narrative that the changing the spelling to N-I-G-G-A now empowers us. But that's a lie. Nigger by any spelling is still a nigger because the subconscious mind doesn't see the different spelling. The latest propaganda they've spread into our communities is that we should call ourselves niggers, N-E-G-U-S, because it's an ancient Ethiopian word meaning king. However, critically think and look at the following facts. There are in fact literally more than 2,000 languages and dialects in Africa. And each one of them have at least 3 words meaning king. Given with so many thousands of African words also meaning king, don't you therefore find it just a little bit suspicious that the only one of them that's being repetitively spread throughout the black communities just happens to be the word niggers? The one that just happens to sound like the original word of niggers? To believe that this is merely an incredible coincidence is extremely naive. Clearly, the word niggers was deliberately selected and is being deliberately propagated into the black communities to serve a particular agenda. The Ethiopian word of niggers is being misused to keep African Americans functioning under the original effects of the original N word because the subconscious mind doesn't see the different spelling. Millions of African Americans have been socially engineered to call ourselves niggers, and the programming is so strong that many will now accept any frivolous reasons to continue doing so.